free live webinar tonight. And so I know many of you across the land are watching this, and you are stuck in home in a shelter-in-place order, as I know that has happened for lots of people. But we are excited to share with you on how you can learn to market, and market both you and your books, even in a difficult time. And so we have 10 tips for you this evening to share with you to help you be the best you can be at being a published author, which also means not only writing books, but selling books and selling yourself. And so over the course of this, we're going to go through how to market your books, how to market you. And I think there's no better time than now that's ever been in my lifetime to grow your platform, gain exposure in the world. There is no competition in the world right now for attention. You have the opportunity of a lifetime to connect with an audience and build a fan base and a following of people who care about you for who you are as an author. And so there are ways to do that right now. We're going to look at some practical ways that are good for every author to do, and then we can talk about it, some question and answer at the end, and maybe give you some more specifics about maybe right now in the current environment that we're in the world around us. Because to be an author is to be someone who sells books and writes books. And so we're going to go through 10 things together. You can follow along. The notes will be on the screen for you of the 10 steps, and then we'll have a question and answer time at the end. We're going to start with one that's very obvious for some, but not obvious for others, and that's number one, have a website. You got to have a website. You need to have a website that tells people who you are, and it establishes you and your identity or your persona as an author. I can't tell how many times I get submissions when I go look up the person's name and I can't find them on the internet. Or if I can find them, their name's so similar to other people, I have no idea how to really track them down. And so if I can't find that they exist in the world, I can't believe that they can sell a book. And so neither can a publisher. They can't rely on someone to sell a book who doesn't have any kind of ability to be found or discovered by potential readers. And so the first thing that you need to do is get a website. Now, I know some of you say, well, I don't have a book. Why do I need a website? You need a website because it's a pathway to finding you and ultimately finding your book. You don't have to pay for this website. There are many things out there that allow you to have free websites. There are programs like WordPress that have free versions. There's Squarespace and there's Wix and you name it. There's lots of free options to get websites out there. And so begin there and work your way up. And I know some of you are not graphic designers. That's not what you were made. You're not an illustrator. You don't really do great with pictures or images or illustrations, and that's okay. There are plenty of stock opportunities out there for you to have a website that is a destination for people to find you as an author and direct potential agents, potential editors, publishers, and your readers too, to figure out and understand who you are. This doesn't matter if you're a fiction author, it doesn't matter if you are a nonfiction author, and it doesn't matter if you're a children's author. You need to have a place on the internet, and that place needs to be really a house for you and your kind of author persona on the internet. So if you're a children's writer, it should be to engage families and children, and really to engage the buyers of children's books, parents and grandparents, namely mothers and grandmothers, is what it needs to be able to connect and engage with that audience. If you're a fiction author, many of your future sales are going to come through your website, or your readers are going to find you and go to your website to find more information about you. So they need to have a place to figure out who you are and what you do. I represent authors, many fiction authors who have lots of books out in the market, sold hundreds of thousands of copies, and a big portion of how they do their business is through their website and the way that they connect with authors, the way that they're able to sell and equip authors to continue reading future books and future series, all through that personal connection that comes through a website. And so it's one of the things that we do in the world is we go to a website to check things out. And right now, as many people in this country and others are in home, they don't have much to do but be on the internet during the day. And so this is one of the greatest times in the world to have exposure through social media, through the internet, through emails than there's ever been before. And if you don't have a website, don't let this season pass without getting a website. Find some of those free options. Many of the companies right now are offering exclusive free deals, trial memberships. They're offering discounts, significant discounts, because they're trying to continue on their business model. So if you don't have a website, or if you're unhappy with the website you have, maybe look for some different options right now and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there to get free or cheap resources that you can use to build your website. And so that's a big part of it. The other thing when I talk about websites is you also not only need to have your website, you need to engage with websites where books are sold. If you want to be an author who sells books, which every author does that's well published, from self-published to hybrid published to traditional published, then you need to understand that where books are sold. Right now, as of today, books are currently not sold on Amazon at the moment. Amazon has just announced that they are taking a delay in prioritizing books to prioritizing essential resources. So I just received an email from a publisher today that said that Amazon will not be shipping any books for publishers until after April 22nd at the earliest. So that publisher is a very large publisher who's scrambling to try to direct booksellers and book buyers to their website, their own website, to purchase books and to fulfill orders. And so that's one of the things that you need to be aware of as the industry changes, but you need to know some of the other options out there besides Amazon who can sell books. Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. There's a bunch of indie bookstore websites that sell books on behalf of bookstores. So go out and find out where books are sold and figure out how to get connected with those resources as a purchaser, as a consumer, so that when you are ready to sell, you know how to engage with that market and understand the buying habits of the consumers who are going to buy your books. So know where books are sold right now. It's changing very rapidly. Currently today and throughout the rest of this week, in the next few weeks, it's going to change day in and day out as publishers try to figure out how to deliver books and sell books in this current market. So those are some things that you need to be aware of in number one. Number two thing that you need to do on how to market you and your books is you need to have an email list. An email list is one of those things. I wish I'd have done it 10 years ago. I wish I did it 5 years earlier than I did. And I listen to people time in and time out say, you need to have an email list, you need to have an email list. And I said, you know what, I'll just go do that when I'm ready. And they would even stand up front in conference sessions and say, you need to do this now, even though you say you're not going to do it until later. You still need to do it now. And I was one of those people like, yeah, right, I'll still do it later. The truth is, I wish I'd have started earlier. And you need to start now. Even if you don't have a book ready to release, even if you've got 80 books already, you need to have an email list. It's the only thing that you can control as an author is your direct engagement with your audience through your emails. Because any day, Facebook could be shut down. I've been using Facebook to connect with people over the last couple of weeks, and if you've noticed, Facebook's clunky right now. It's struggling. There's a lot of people engaging with data and the internet at the same time. The European Union is beginning to restrict streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, all these. There's talk of that in other countries, and also I'm sure coming in the U.S. as there's just too many people using bandwidth at the same time. There has to be some kind of restriction coming as more and more people go to shelter in place and more countries go on lockdown. That's the one medium that everyone has for resources, for connection, for news, for media, for school. And so it's going to be overwhelmed. So in all of that, you could lose any of those in an instant. And if your whole platform is based on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter and it goes away, you lose everything. Email is what you should prioritize when you want to market you and your products and your books. Email should be one of the biggest things that you utilize. Building and growing an email newsletter, and then maintaining that newsletter on a regular and recurring basis, creating a following and fan base that knows who you are, which we'll talk about some of those other steps, and then ultimately connecting them back to you through your email list. And that's the goal of an email list. You can do that before a book releases because you can begin giving content away that connects to what you write about, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, or children, and deliver that to your potential readers or your future book buyers through that email newsletter. I talk about this email newsletter on a daily basis with authors, with my authors, with potential authors. I talk about it with publishers. It's one of the biggest forms of connection that an author has. And if you don't have an email list, you need to have an email list. I can't implore enough upon you how important those numbers and metrics are. And you need to know things on the email list like, what's your open rate? How many people are on your email list, and what's your open rate? What's your engagement? If I have 1,000 people who 60% of them open it, that's awesome. But if I have 1,000 people who 10% of them open, that's not great. That's 100 people versus 600 people. And so you need to figure out what works for you, and you need to give them information and content that make them want to open the email up so they can connect with you. And then when it is appropriate, you will talk about your book down the road when it's available. But you're building and building and building a base of fans for months, if not years, preceding the launch of a book. Because it shouldn't be just build an email list because I got one product to sell. It should be build an email list because I'm creating a following, a tribe, a fan base, and ultimately that fan base will then be an end user of the product that I'm creating for them. So you need to build an email list that you can control and connect with. So number 3. So number 1, website. Number 2, email list. And number 3, build a brand. Right now is a time, more so than any time ever, to build a brand. Build your persona. Your persona is the way that people view you and your character in the world, and it's how they see you. You want to build a positive persona with your future audience. Now, you can do that right now through any kind of social media platform. You can get on and you can engage. If you notice, there's people all over the internet right now on every single platform trying to create connection. And to do that, you want to engage with people. You want them to know who you are. You want them to care about the things that you care about, and because it's also something that they connect with and care about. And so when you build persona and build brand, it makes a connection with people. And for example, one of the things I've been doing right now is just been creating videos, funny videos, humorous videos that share a positive light on the difficulty of the situation of the day that we're in, and it connects with people. They connect my persona with theirs and gives them hope, and ultimately allows them to have a better outlook on life. We're doing that right now with writers, is by having these free webinars. We want to connect with you to build relationship and ultimately to walk forward through difficulty, so that afterwards we are in tandem in the way we see the world, the way that we see this industry, and the way that we work together for a win-win scenario for all of us. And so this is a great time to be creating video content on a regular, reoccurring basis, maybe daily, maybe multiple times a day, maybe weekly, but find ways to create content. And I know some of you are saying, well, I don't want to be on a video. Well, don't do video. Do it in writing. Create blog posts, create memes, create graphics, create humorous graphics, and send them out into the world and connect with people. Enter into dialogue on Facebook comments, on chats that you see, on whether it's political chats, whether it's industry chats, whether it's themes that connect with your book, whether it's children's book, nonfiction book, or fiction book. Just engage in dialogue and you have genuine connection with people. One of the things that I've heard today as we hear about things going on in the world is people are just enjoying connecting with each other again. We've been so busy as a world, we really forgot about genuine relationship and connection. As an author, I think many authors have forgot that the biggest part of this industry in selling books is connecting with readers, understanding readers, and being able to create product that's for them. And so ultimately, create opportunity to build brand for you. Figure out who you are as an author, and then project that persona into the world through social media. You can do it through your emails. You can put your personality in there, but you can do it through Instagram. You can do it through Facebook. You can do it through Twitter. You can do it through LinkedIn. You can do it through TikTok. You can do it through Marco Polo. You can do it through all these different social medias, YouTube, and you can find the one that is right for you. Because not everyone's right for me. Like, I am not a 13-year-old girl, so TikTok is not the best platform for me. So but one of the things I know, that Instagram is really the only one besides TikTok that's growing in the world. Everything else is shrinking in comparison to the growth of our population. And so when I look at those numbers, I see that Instagram is something I should prioritize, and I should deprioritize other networks that are starting to lose popularity, such as Twitter, Twitter's one that it engages and where people have conversations about politics, about celebrity, about those type of things. But there's no real depth there that you can find on some of those other platforms. So understand the platforms and understand where your audience is, because your audience will be at different places. If I'm trying to reach millennials, I'm going to be I'm going to be on Instagram. But if I'm trying to reach young adults right now, like early young adults or high school students, I'm going to be on TikTok. That's where I'm going to build my audience, or I'm going to maybe catch the ones that are drifting into Snapchat. That might be your college-age students, as I see Snapchat is even going down in numbers now. And so those are some of the things you need to do as you build your brand and kind of cast your persona out through the many social media options that we have currently in the world. So that's number 3. Number 4, don't sell, engage. People hate when you sell them stuff. I hate when people sell me stuff. I do not want to go somewhere where someone just shoves something in my face and says, buy this. I'm just like, no, I'm not going to buy that. Because now you've tried to pitch me something I didn't want. And so don't try to sell people. Engage with people and let sales come naturally. And so when I see people on the internet, they're always sell all the time, it's a turn off. If every post they have is about their book or their product that they're selling, then I just click unfollow this person because it's annoying. And so we don't want to be authors who are always selling. We want to be authors who are always engaging with others. And the sell comes through the engagement. It comes because people generally value what you bring to the table through conversation, through your platform, through your persona, through what you give to them, through your products. And so ultimately, when they have this value that comes from your engagement, they'll want to purchase when it's an appropriate time to purchase. It doesn't mean don't ever talk about your book. But if I have a book releasing in a year, I might mention it one time and not mention it again until the book releases. Because if I talk about it for 12 months, all I'm going to do is alienate all the people who I would hope would buy the book at the end. And so I don't want to just talk about my book. I mean, it's like one of those things when you're in, many of you have been there. You've been in like a Facebook group, and there's just someone's in there every day, 10, 20 times a day, just posting their book. Buy my book. It's free. It's 99 cents. I've done it before. I'm guilty. When I was an early author before I knew it. But what happens is when I saw everybody else post in there, I'd be like, that's annoying. So I need to stop that too, because that means I'm being annoying to people as well. And so learn from the negative behaviors that you see, and then don't repeat them. And don't be a person who's pushy, and sell. Be someone who genuinely cares about the needs of your readers and engages with them. Talk to them, chat with them, answer emails, connect with them. Go even further into investigating questions if they make a comment on your post or something, and ask them about their life and how they're doing. And when you create that engagement, you create a tribe. You can create fans, people who are loyal followers of you because you add value to their life by giving them value. And so make sure that you don't sell, you engage. One of the things that I think of an author who, as a friend of mine, who was talking about reaching out to a local bookstore, and she went to a local bookstore and just started up a conversation with the owner. And just a local guy who had a local bookstore, and through the conversation, through the connection, he ended up carrying her book and then ended up going on to sell 400 of those books and continued to order more and more books as he put that book not only in the store, but on the front by the point of sale machines, because where you buy the books, because he valued that person and the connection and the engagement, and he wanted to support that author in their journey. And ultimately, the book was an amazing book. So his store was single-handedly responsible for that author moving on to bigger sales and then to a bigger publisher. I really believe without that store, she may not have ever had that kind of success because of the engagement. Because she actually engaged with him and didn't just try to sell the whole time, but build a relationship. So make sure you overemphasize relationship right now, especially in a difficult time, and you underemphasize selling somebody something. Give it away for free if you need to. Also, one of the things when we say don't sell and engage is go and engage locally. Go and engage with your local bookstores, your local book fairs, anywhere that books can be sold, vendors. If you're in a highly trafficked destination, it's really hard to do right now in the current market, but when the market opens up, if you're in an area where people are coming into, like a touristy area, get to know the people who have tourist shops. Get to know the people who have little knick-knack and gift stores, and try to get connection with them. Go in and be a shopper. Go in and make your face known on a regular basis. Go buy stuff before you try to sell stuff or get them to carry something. Go and be a regular, reoccurring customer at some place and be a patron before you're asking them to place your consumer product on the shelf to sell. And when you do that, what happens is people will remember you. When you start talking to the manager or the owner, you'll create genuine connection, and they'll want you to succeed because you're helping them succeed. And I think even more and more as we move on past the difficulty we're in, that the emphasis on local businesses is going to be huge. It already is in my area. Like everybody's saying, buy local, buy local. I'm saying it. We want to help our businesses survive. And so what better way than helping your businesses survive and being part of that connection and community in your local area? And then one day when you come back to those same businesses with an opportunity to sell your product, how much more likely will they be to be willing to carry your product on the shelf? I think they'll be much more likely because in my situation, I would love to do that for somebody who has helped me through a difficult situation because we usually and typically repay kindness with kindness. That's generally the way we work as a people. So that's number 4, don't sell, engage. Number 5 is determine user interest by asking questions. Determine your user interest by asking questions. One of the greatest ways that you can steer your resource or your book is by asking questions of your potential readers. Sometimes we sit down and we say, I'm going to write this book because I think this is a felt need and I'm going to answer it with this. The problem is if you ask the audience will say, I didn't really care about that. What I cared about was this. And so one of the things you can do is if you create an engagement with your audience, you can ask them questions. You can do it through surveys, you can do it through polls, or you can meet your potential readers and you can engage them through questions. Follow up with direct messages or follow up in a comment on a post or a blog or on social media and just say, hey, can you tell me more? What do you think about this? And the more that you engage and have real dialogue and real questions, the more likely you're going to get attuned to the needs of your audience and you're going to be able to speak into the felt needs. And I believe that every book speaks into a felt need, whether it's a romance, whether it's a science fiction or fantasy, whether it's a children's picture book, whether it's a nonfiction. There's some kind of need that we're meeting. I love Lord of the Rings, but it meets my need for adventure. Like I read it because there's adventure in it, and there's this evil and good fighting each other, and there's this hope, and there's this underdog who overcomes to have victory, and there's this friend who ends up being the ultimate one to help him carry the victory. Like it's got everything that we were longing for in life contained within its pages. It speaks to felt needs. It really does at its core, and I think most books do. And so as authors, we need to determine what the needs are, what the interests are of our readers, and then speak into them with our writing once we have them as an understanding. I've seen too many times where people write a book, and I ask them, like, why did you write this? And like, what are you trying to fix for your audience or your reader? And they have no clue. It's like, well, just one day I was in the shower, and I just thought I'd write this, and that's why I wrote it. And like, the truth is, if you don't really know if there's a need for it, why spend the time writing it? Get that big idea. We talked about in our last webinar, like one of the things I look for is somebody's got that big idea, that thing that when you hear it, it's like the light bulb goes off. And it's like, oh yeah, I can't believe no one ever thought of that before. And you sometimes will hear that about a product. And you'll say, oh, that product was perfectly named. And it's like, oh, how come no one ever came up with that idea before? So, so some of those things you can see. I actually saw one today. I was watching an infomercial today on the internet. Someone's running this big ad because what has happened is there's a shortage of toilet paper because everybody's buying toilet paper because, it's the end of the world. And so there's a product that's being advertised like crazy right now on the internet, and it is a bidet called Clear Rear. I've seen 20 different videos on it, but it is the perfect name, and the whole ad is about the lack of toilet paper. And so, to be honest, like I thought it, and I said, yeah, that's a genius name. You'll remember it. And although it may be gross, to talk about it, it is the perfect name for a product that engages with the felt need of an audience, and they use the lack of toilet paper to speak into that felt need. Our books can do the same thing. And when we understand the needs of our audience, then when we get to the point of launching that book into the world, we can create advertisements and we can market directly to people that are looking for that felt need to be met in their life through the product we create, through the children's book we create, or through the fiction that we write that can speak into them. And so it's important to understand by asking questions through through surveys, polls, and more. Number six is share stories. One of the ways that you market you and you market your books is share stories. Your life matters to your reader. It does. Like I've always cared about my favorite authors. I always go look them up. Even if it's somebody I don't know very well, I always go and search them. I have done this my entire life. I remember when I was in 8th grade, I got a letter from Michael Crichton, the writer of Jurassic Park, because I was a fan of Jurassic Park, and I read his books, and I wrote him a letter, and he wrote back. And it was awesome because this famous author wrote back to me because I wanted to know more about Michael Crichton. Now, what I learned from Michael Crichton is that there were a lot of choice words in that book for an 8th grader to be reading. And as I went to look onto some of his other books, they were a little bit more risque. So I didn't read those, and my parents wouldn't let me read those. But I found that out as an 8th grader because I cared about who Michael Crichton was and I cared about his life. At the age that I was, eventually, as I went into high school, there was a television show called ER, which happened to be created by my favorite author, Michael Crichton, which led me to watch the show, mainly because I loved Michael Crichton. Because I wanted a connection with my favorite author at the time. It goes on to, like, Michael Crichton ended up passing away, had cancer and all those things. And then so I also loved Orson Scott Card, was my favorite science fiction and fantasy author. And I got to meet him last year in New York. At the Book Expo, I think 2 years ago, I got to meet him and get a picture with him, and it was awesome. But like I always followed him on his personal website and would get to know about him and where he taught school. And I've always tried to get to one of his private writer instructions because we want to follow the people because we care about their life because we're fans. We read their books. We want to know about them. And so for us, one of the things I loved about was just knowing stories about their lives. I loved to hear stories back then about Michael Crichton's life and about his family. And I knew about his son who ended up finishing some of his books. And with Orson Scott Card, I got to know about him living on a river and all these things and where he worked, because I cared. And so our fans, our readers, they care about us. And we were talking about this just a little bit ago. People don't care about consuming. They care about connecting. When I buy a product, I don't buy a product to just because I'm all about consumerism. I don't buy that this is going to be great. I'm going to collect this and put it away on the shelf and never look at it or touch it again. Now, some people are just collectors. But genuinely speaking, we buy something because we want to connect, and that helps us connect to something, or it will help us connect with something. I saw a t-shirt today. I was just talking about this with another one of our Serious Writer team members, and I saw this t-shirt. I was just driving this t-shirt, and I'm like, I wanted to buy the t-shirt because it was awesome, but the reason the t-shirt wasn't about owning the t-shirt. It was about how it would help me connect with people, and it would be humorous and funny. And I like to dress up like a unicorn and wear unicorn pants, and people love the stupid things I do. But ultimately because it just connects with people. And so people want to know about your life. They want to connect with you. They want to know about your kids, and they want to know about your spouse, and they want to know about where you live and what you're interested in and what your hobbies are, because they want to connect. And the more they're connected to you, the more likely they're going to connect with your product, because that product is going to be an extension of their ability to connect with the person that they're a fan of. And so that's why we write books, and that's why publishers love to find authors who have a platform, who have established a place in the market, because they already have a reader base that follows them because they have a tribe and they have a fan base. And so essentially each author has to create a fan base of loyal followers who will stick with you because of you. Not because of a book you wrote, but because of you. I know this because when I used to work with teenagers, I remember when Stephanie Meyer came out with Twilight. And I remember sitting in a bus with a teenage girl on a trip, and she was in the seat in front of me, and I looked up, and I'm like, "What are you reading?" And she's like, "Oh, this is book Twilight." And I'm like, I'd never heard of Twilight at that point. This is when it first came out. And I'm like, "Well, let me see it." So I started flipping through the pages. I'm like, "Oh, this is not great." And I gave it back. But the issue was, she went on to read that book, and then the next book, and the next book. And I remember, when the movies came out, she was so fervent. She was dressed in Twilight stuff. She was starting to cut her hair and look like Twilight people. And she was all that stuff. And so then I, in trying to connect with the teens at the time, tried to find ways to, now I got to figure out this whole Twilight thing, because they were so passionate about not only the series and the characters in the books, but passionate about the author. Because I remember saying in that conversation, well, this isn't written that well. And basically I got chastised by a teenage girl because I didn't know what I was talking about because these books were amazing and her writing was amazing. And I got this lecture because she was such a fan. And it was like, don't speak ill of this person that I adore and I value. So as authors, we share our stories, we connect with our audience, and we create loyal followers and fans who ultimately will buy our products one day. So that's number 6. Number 7 is be transparent. Honesty creates connection. Honesty creates connection. When we are honest with people, we're honest with our readers, they connect with us. When we share who we are, we share our hurts, when we're transparent with what we're going through, we engage emotionally with readers. Like, it's okay if I'm a fantasy author who writes dragon books for teenage boys. But when I share the difficulties and the struggles that I'm going through, especially now, and I have these readers who are following, they get it because they're experiencing the same emotions that we are experiencing. Everything doesn't always have to be about the book. Sometimes we can just be people that connect to people. And so we can be real, we can be transparent. We don't have to create a fake persona. That's more of a celebrity level status where the celebrities create this false persona. But as authors, we want to be real. We want to create a real persona. We want to share who we really are with our readers and engage and connect with them on a whole nother emotional level, which creates them as Be Forever fans. And ultimately, you'll be Forever fans. There's authors who I'll just read their stuff just because I'm a Forever fan. Not all their stuff is as good. There's books I've read that I can take it or leave it. But there are those books I just fall in love with, but I'm loyal because I care about the author. Because we've been connected and we've journeyed together through life, even though we don't know each other, but because they've been transparent and I've participated in the journey. You want to bring your readers into your journey. Let them journey through life with you. Let them care about what you care about and care about you. And ultimately, I believe they'll care about your books. So that's one of the ways to engage. The next, number 8, is provide value. One of the ways you provide value is when you give something, give a lot. Give more than the average person would give. I saw an ad today where someone was giving 60% off a course. And it's great. 60% off is great. But like when everybody's losing their jobs and being laid off, is 60% even enough? Like at Serious Writer, we've just said to ourselves, let's just give stuff away for free. Like why we can do that? Yes, it'll be tough for us. We're a company that we like any other company, you need income to continue to sustain your business. But what people need now more than anything, more than product, they need hope. And so we've just been a company that we said we are going to give value and we're going to provide hope as part of the value that we give to the community of authors as we walk through difficulty together with a pandemic. And ultimately, we'll worry about those business things at a later date. And we'll just continue to give value to people as we can because that's what we can do to create connection and provide value to people. One of the things I love about my partner Bethany is when she creates our weekly emails, her and our assistant, they give more than any other company that I know of would give away. They find resources and they provide free stuff and they make connection, they share stories, and I know we have a really high open rate on our emails. I get to see it when I go in and look at the metrics, and we have a high open rate because people know that when they open that email, it's going to be chock full of stuff that will assist them on their journey, and it's not all about selling. We have to put the products and stuff that we have because we have to sustain our business, but like the whole point of that is to provide value for people. If you can, when you have a newsletter or you have a social media post, if you can provide value for people over and above what the average person is doing, it creates connection. People will love you and will appreciate the things that you do that others are not doing because they notice. And one of the ways that you can market you and your books right now is not only give value in your books, but give value in the way that you present who you are, your persona to the world, in the way that you create all the content that you put into the world. Give more, and give more. And have what you give more of be value. There's nothing worse, like the fastest way to get out of my inbox is to be a product, somebody selling a product that is just a link with no value. It's just a real short paragraph. Click here, and I don't want to click there. You didn't give me anything. You're basically just trying to sell me something that I probably don't need anyways. What I love to see is when somebody gives me something and it's just chock full of stuff, free stuff. And lately, I've been getting some of those from businesses, and I'll go and they'll be like, "Hey, we're going to give you these 10 things right here for free, just because it's a difficult time. And if you want these 10 things, click." Well, that gets my attention every time, especially if I like the 10 things. And so, like, I click. I've joined like 7 different organizations right now online just because they give free stuff away. And I'm like, yes, please, free, I'll take it. And so some of those I've already signed up for the extra value package because the free stuff was good, but I needed that next level. And so it's a way, but in giving me free stuff, they've created value, and they've just allowed me to become a fan. And then I was able to buy more. I'll give you a practical example in the real sense in the business world. I had a situation last night with a pizza company where I ordered pizza for another family because we got a shelter-in-place order. And ultimately, I wanted to help that family out. And so what we had done is we sent the pizza. They picked it up. And then they told me later the pizzas were wrong. They didn't give cheese pizzas. They gave pepperoni pizzas. So I called the business and I said, "Hey, this is what happened." And the guy said, "No worries. Come get it. It takes 6 minutes. Come here, get it. I'll give you the order all over, the whole order. So even the pizzas that were right, I would give it to you." So and then he says, "By the way, by the time you get here, I'll credit the entire order back to you and redo the order for you." And I'm like, wow, that's added value. I didn't ask for the order back. It wasn't an expectation. I never expected for him I just expected to get the cheese pizzas. So then I got there, and I picked up the pizzas, and I was going to take them, and so they were mistakenly made again. They were pepperoni. This is not a joke. This happened last night. And so I get there to pick up these pepperoni pizzas, and I look at them, and I'm like, "Oh, these are pepperoni. They're supposed to be cheese." And he's like, "You know what? I'm so sorry." He goes, "It does take 6 minutes." He goes, "How about I make them in large for you and upgrade from medium, no cost, if you wait?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll do that. 6 minutes." So they make me these 2 large pizzas and bring them out. And when he comes out, he's like, "By the way, would you like a free 2-liter pop for your troubles?" And so every time they spoke to me, it wasn't how can we make you more frustrated. It was how can we ease your frustration and make you a loyal customer this point forward. So for me, that company, I will always shop at Hungry Howie's Pizza now if I'm buying pizza in town, because Hungry Howie's went to the extra mile, and then they went the extra mile, and then went the extra mile to keep me as a happy customer without me even asking. And so what I have learned, and we've really learned this as we work with Bethany, is that the added value goes above and beyond even when people don't ask for the added value. One of the things I love about Bethany is when someone goes through a difficult situation with health and they need to make a change to something that they have purchased, I always know that an email will come to Bethany, explain the situation, and is this a time that we can make an exception? And it's always like, "This is what I think we should do." And I'm always like, "Yeah, Bethany, it's a great idea." Because it's always, "This is what I think we should do, and then this is how we can go above and beyond and bless that person." And so, I know that we've had times where someone has had a major medical issue, and even though they're past a cancellation because the medical issue was so severe, we're like, "Yes, let's make an exception, let's refund it." And the next thing I know, Bethany's like, "Hey, can we give them a free class or 2 just to help and bless them?" And I'm like, "Yes," because it's added value. The person never asked for it, never expected it. But it's what you do to make people understand they mean something to you and they have value to you. And so I love that she does that. And I'm always a yes, because I always know she's gonna come up with some amazing idea for those kind of things. So that's number 8. Number 9 is offer surprise and or humor. If you want to market you in your books, you have to have surprise or humor. Not every person is funny. Not every person has humor. I get that. You might be thinking, "Well, I just don't have that much humor in me." You don't have to have humor. Have surprise. Because surprise can be just as good as humor. And one of the reasons I love movies, when I talk about movies, I love Star Wars. But the last 2 movies, I did not like 8 because the problem was there were all these surprises in the movie. I didn't like them. But I haven't talked about that movie except about the surprises. When I talk about that movie all the time, the only thing I talk about in the movie is all the surprises I didn't like. Now we go to number 9 episode. I loved that movie, and there were lots of surprises that I enjoyed and liked that fixed the ones I didn't like. The only thing I talk about that movie is the surprises that I like, Because the surprise is what I remember and what I talk about. I don't remember all the mundane things that you expect. It's the twist and the surprise, the things that catch your attention. And so, and oftentimes in movies, when there's comedy, you remember the comedic parts and the comedic wit and the banter and the one-off sayings. When you repeat those, and they become an interior dialogue or language with another person, inside language. And so you remember that because it sticks out. Well, as an author with your fan base, you need to have surprise and you need to have humor as part of what you do. And if you can't have one, have the other. If you're not a humorous person, surprise your audience. Have twists. Tell them something they didn't know. Do something different that they didn't expect. Keep things moving and changing. Don't just do the same things over and over again because it gets boring. Like, have some twists and have some changes and have some differences. And keep your audience guessing so that they're always wanting to know what you're going to say. So they're on the edge of the seat waiting for you to say, this is what's next. And then number 10, invest in the 3 T's. The 3 T's are time, talent, and treasure. You want to spend your time building in marketing and building a platform. You want to spend your talent to do that. Invest all that you've got, all your effort and energy to build that network and platform. And then you want to invest money. You can't do this without money. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's a lot of stuff that you can do for free, but eventually you're going to have to invest money in marketing. Marketing and selling books cost money. Publishers invest a lot of money. The authors who I know are self-published, who do it well, invest money in advertisement. You need to learn how to do advertisement. But what I want to say is don't invest your money until after you've invested your time and your talents to build an audience, build a persona, to do all these other things, to have a website, to have an email list, to have an email list funnel, to make sure that you know your persona or your brand, to make sure that you've engaged with your audience, you've not tried to sell. After you've determined the interest of your audience and what they want, after you've shared your life, your stories, after you're transparent, after you've given value, and after you've used humor and surprise to connect and engage with your audience further, after you've done all those things, you invest your time, all of your time, energy, and your talent into building towards actually spending money to market. And then once you've done all that, you know your audience, you have a fan base, and then you market to your fan base with money, and then it's cheaper and it's more effective to market to them. And this is how the authors who sell more books, they do it, is because they spend the time up front to build all that they need to do with their time and their talent so that when they're ready to invest their treasure, they have an audience that's engaged and that will connect with them. And so that's how we do it. So in the ways that you invest your treasure, which this class isn't about how to actually do paid marketing, it's more about how to market you and your books by understanding what it looks like to build an audience and a fan base, is you use Amazon marketing, which I wouldn't use necessarily right now, Facebook ads, doing retargeting, doing Google ads, and doing BookBub. And we have resources to help you with all those things, and we're even coming up with more, because one of the things we've done is we've got some personal tutoring from Facebook, and we've learned some amazing lessons that have just helped vault our ads to a whole nother level. And so we're beginning to teach that as well to help authors have success there. But those are the ways that 10 tips on how to market you and your books. And I know you're looking for like the practical tip. This is the magic button. Maybe this is the bag of magic beans, and we're going to give it to you, and just tomorrow you'll be able to sell 1 million books. And the truth is, it takes hard work and a lot of investment of time and your talents, all that energy to market and sell books. And if you're willing to invest that time up front and willing to invest your talents into doing that, it's a lot easier when you invest your treasure to see it produce results and see it books come through. I've seen authors who have built some following in the past, but then focused on really more just the writing side and let that fall apart. And then they've went back to try to market to people and that no longer are engaged with them, following them anymore, because they forgot to continue to connect with that audience. And so you have to stay engaged once you engage and continue engage for the long term. Don't just build it and let it sit, or it'll slowly wither away and die. You need to keep moving forward. And so those are our 10 tips. I'm going to answer some questions that I know I'm getting some notification up here that we have 5 questions so far in our Q&A. So I'm going to answer some of your questions. I know Bethany has been in the chat answering questions, I believe, for the entirety of this. And so you're welcome to ask more questions of her. Bethany is amazing. She has a master's of marketing. She's got a bright mind for this. And so I've learned a lot from her. And so I know she's kind of plugging away at questions and comments there. But we're going to tackle 5 questions here. So our first question is this. This is from Joshua J. Masters. What's the number one mistake authors make in marketing a new book? I think focusing on the wrong things. Most of the mistakes that I see authors make when marketing a new book is spending time on marketing techniques that don't sell books. I talked about this a little bit last time. Launch parties don't sell books. Paper advertisements, like putting something in a magazine or a newspaper, it doesn't sell books. So just the wrong investment of energy in trying to sell books is where I think the number one mistake authors make in trying to market a new book. There are ways that are successful, but typically those ways are paid advertisements through Amazon and Facebook, and knowing how to create those ads and market to an audience that you already have, instead of trying to market to the entire globe at once who don't know who you are. And so those are some things that would be a mistake. And then the follow-up to this question is, what is the number one best thing an author can do? And I'll flip that around and say, the number one best thing an author can do is spend the time to invest in building a platform. Have a following when the book releases. Whether you're a fiction author, whether you're a children's author, whether you are a nonfiction author, have people who you know, who are a fan club, an audience of you, who will buy your book, and invest in them. And spend the hours and hours and hours and the months and months of investing and creating an audience. It will pay dividends upon return. And each book that you launch will then make it easier, because that should springboard you into growing another additional add-on to that audience, and then each one will go further. And so that's what I would see as the number one there. So the next question. The next question is from Rhonda, and it says, I have lots of writer followers on social media, but how do you get reader followers? Yeah, writer followers on social media are not helpful. They're friends, and that's great, but writer followers don't buy your books, and writers don't help you promote your books for the most part. And so writers are in it for their own platform for the most part. Like, we're all trying to do the same thing. So to get reader followers, you have to go to where readers are and engage with them. There's tons of reader forums. There's tons of reader groups. I can't tell you, there's probably millions of different Facebook groups that have readers in them, where they talk about books and book clubs and all these things. Get into reader groups and talk about books and engage with readers. It takes a ton of time investment to get to know readers. Get on Goodreads and get in the forums on Goodreads and engage with people on a regular or recurring basis. It may mean you spend entire days, especially right now, just engaging in conversation in forums with readers and not writing. Because if you don't have an audience, who are you writing for? You're just writing for you. You're not writing for readers because you don't have readers. And so you need to connect with readers and go ahead and get fans, so then they will buy your end products. And the people that I know do it, they invest countless hours in connecting with people to engage and make relationship, who then become followers. And you do it in your own genre. It doesn't, Rhonda and I don't write the same genre. So if she tried to go into the places my kind of readers would be and gets them to read her, that's great, but those readers aren't going to buy her book. So she needs to find the readers who are going to be the readers for her genre, for her book, and then invest her time there and making those connections and becoming friends with them. And really, you don't need that many. If you can get a few hundred followers who are super passionate, super engaged readers who will then turn out and buy your book, that could be enough to get you to spring up in the metrics to make your advertisements more likely to work and more likely to trigger algorithms, which will then produce more sales for you. So you don't have to have tens of thousands. Sometimes you just need a few hundred really loyal readers who will buy your book and will pre-order your book to help it spring up in the rankings and get picked up by the algorithms, where you will invest your treasure to then do advertisements that are paid advertisements. So we'll go to the next question. Next one is Marlene. Marlene says, platform provokes pain. A good way to say it. What is the elusive magic about platforms that makes publishers open the doors to their contract? Numbers, interactions, chutzpah, age, presentation, knowing somebody, endorsement. So this is like a really big question. So Marlene, there is no magic about platforms. because publishers often work off of metrics, the numbers would be big. Many publishers are looking for people with a social media following of 50,000 plus on one social media. It's probably more, and I'm guessing right now in the world we're in now, it's only going to get more difficult, and the number's going to become even greater and higher, because in a downturn in the market, the next books that release are going to have to perform at a high level and bring in a lot of sales. So I'm guessing that publishers are going to look for people with more of a volume of followers through platform to be able to recoup losses in a downturn and be able to have higher sales to bring back staff that have now been laid off. And so the numbers are going to get higher, and so the metrics have to work for them. Interactions, they do want to see an engaged audience. They don't want to see 50,000 people. If you have 50,000 people and you have like 10 likes on a post, it's a fake audience. It's not real. And they'll see it as that way. So they want to see an audience with engagement that's equivalent to those are legitimately fans and followers of you who engage. For example, I have one of my clients who has like 120,000, 140,000 followers, and she will generally get 10 to 30,000 views on a video, and she'll get 1,500. 700 to 1,500 to 2,000 likes on a post, so on Instagram. So that's what it looks like to have real engagement numbers. So you can take that and just kind of take that and take a zero off of it, and that's what it would look like for 5,000. But that's what the numbers would look like, or when you're looking at it. But you don't have, like, the higher your engagement is, the less the numbers need to be, truthfully, especially at medium-sized publishers. You don't have to have 50,000 at a smaller publisher. If I've got 5,000 fans and they're extremely loyal, and I get a huge percentage of them engage with me on everything I'm doing, that's a motivated fan base that's going to buy. And publishers will make that exception. Because usually those big numbers like 50,000, they're not all really connected and close to you as maybe a smaller audience. There are publishers that look for a really engaged audience of 1,000. And they may want to find it, if you've got an email list where you've got 1,000 followers with a really high engagement rate on a regular basis, then that's sellable to a publisher, because those people are most likely going to buy your product and push your product into the market. And so it's determining how much your engagement is. The lower the engagement is, the higher the number is going to need to be. And the higher the engagement is, the lower the number could be potentially at some publishers. But if we're talking the Penguin Random Houses of the world, the numbers are going to be big. I mentioned in our last free webinar that I have an author who has over 1 million hits each month, over 1 million views on Pinterest, I think 500,000 followers on Facebook, 100,000 on Instagram, and I was told by one of the big houses that that's just not enough platform to carry the title. So that can tell you that although I thought that was huge platform, platform is such a subjective thing these days. If you're in fiction, you don't need 50,000. In fiction, what you need is a reader base. And so if I'm a fiction author and I've got an engaged reader base, that number could be significantly lower. If I had 1,000 engaged readers of my genre, that probably would carry a lot of weight for pitching a book to a publishing house, because most people are going to come in with well-written books with really minimal to no platform. And so if you have any platform at all, I say that platform and fiction breaks the ties. So if I have like book 1 and book 2, and both books are equal and they're amazing and they're well written, and I'm going to take these to pub board, the book that always is going to get purchased for the most part by the pub board committee is the one that has the most platform. So if this book has higher platform, it's going to get the contract if they're equal on all other metrics, because it's going to have the higher potential for sales based on the audience of the author, who's going to bring more sales to the table than the other one. So I like to say that it breaks ties. And I think it breaks ties in children's, it breaks ties in fiction, and really in nonfiction, which is the bigger of the categories. You ultimately need a lot of platform in nonfiction, more so than the other two. The age presentation on that question, your age doesn't matter. You just need to have an audience that befits your reader age. Like if your readers are going to be young adults, you need to have an audience that is engaged young adults. If you're going to have an audience that's, say, 40 plus, you need to have a following that's 40 plus. I mean, if you had a bunch of teenagers and you write a book for 40-year-olds, that's probably not going to be they're not going to buy your book. So that's part of that. And then knowing someone endorsements don't matter. I'll be honest with you, endorsements don't matter unless that person's going to sell tens of thousands of copies. So if they don't know who the endorser is, the endorsement does not matter. If you say, my endorser is my friend Joey, who wrote this book for a publisher, it doesn't matter, because unless that person is James Patterson or somebody whose their name carries so much weight that people will buy it just because they know the name, it's not going to matter. If you know a celebrity, but it's a lesser-known celebrity that the person who's acquiring your book's not going to know, it's not going to matter, because celebrities really don't deliver sales on books. They tried that, and that hasn't really turned into too much of sales, unless that celebrity is somebody like a Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel, who has a late-night show every night, who has an engaged following, who can put out a children's book and sell it. But unless they have this reoccurring way to get in front of an audience and sell product, there's ultimately not going to be as big of an opportunity for endorsements. So I wouldn't focus your time on endorsements unless you know somebody that's super famous and is already selling product. And the issue with that is they're usually charging thousands of dollars to represent products. So why would they endorse your book for free? We had a situation where one of my authors approached somebody with a large Instagram following and thought they would endorse a product because of friendship and connection and out of favor to favor, and that person offered them a significant price to endorse the product that they were working on together. So and everything's not always free in this world. So you need to make sure that you don't focus so much on endorsements or knowing somebody as you do building your own platform. That's going to be the most important thing to a publisher. Next question. Jesse asks, effective book marketing strategies for authors without much marketing support from their publisher. No, that's pretty much every publisher these days, unless you're one of the top 10% of authors in the world. Most publishers do very minimal marketing. I feel like I'm making it up as I go, and I'm basically paralyzed by tons of options. Having a professional lay out some tangible guidelines would be awesome. So what are effective book marketing strategies for authors? Jesse, in the comments, put this one, and I'll ask Bethany to speak in the comments for you. The best book marketing strategies for authors right now, if you're self-published, would be to run your own ads on Amazon Marketing Services and really invest all your time on there. Now, I'm saying that right after Amazon just decided not to focus on books for the next couple months. So that has traditionally been the way to sell books. If you invest your time in learning and understanding Amazon Marketing Services ads, you can deliver your books because Amazon was the number one bookseller in the world and book distributor in the world. That is the way. Now, if you're working with a publisher, you don't have access to Amazon Marketing Services platform. They do. Do not give them your money to do Amazon ads for you because they probably don't know it well enough to do so. So there's other strategies such as learning how to do Facebook ads and driving ad traffic to your book, or learning how to do Google ads and driving all that traffic to build your following in your email newsletter, not actually driving traffic to your book. Because the problem with what I see a lot of authors do is they invest a lot of money and it goes down the drain. Because if I'm going to sell a book through my publisher, let's just say, for example, let's say it's $20 for the book, and I'm going to get a 10% royalty, and let's say there's $5 profit. And so I'm going to get a 10% royalty. We'll make it 20, so I get $1. So it's 20% royalties on 10%, and on a $5 profit. So I'm going to get $1. So if I have run an ad, I know for every book sold, I'm eventually going to get $1. So I need to know what the book's selling for, what my royalty percentage, what my pay-through is going to be on that, what I'm going to net. So I'm going to make $1 on the book. But if that click on Facebook ads costs me $1.47, I just lost $1.47. If they click on that and still buy my book, I'm still out 47 cents. The truth is, if you get a 10-to-1 or 20-to-1 click-through rate to sale, that can be an amazingly good rate, which means you might have to spend $30 to $40 to get that one sale to make $1. And so it's not worth your time and energy to try to sell that book that the publisher has when what you need to do is build your platform with paid advertising. So that paid advertising should go to build your email newsletter. It should go to build your social media numbers and all your stuff that you're doing, because through your website and your email list, you're building your brand and your persona, you're engaging with an audience, you're asking the right questions, you're sharing your stories, you're being transparent, you're providing value, and then you're offering surprise and humor as you're investing in this audience. So the money that you invest goes into building that audience that you're pouring all your energy into to make them loyal fans and followers and readers, so that then they will buy your book down the road, not an immediate click-through sale. That's where you would be better off to spend your money instead of giving it to your publisher, which I know a lot of people just write checks to their publishers. And honestly, I have never seen a publisher ever deliver positive sales when they've gotten a check or money from an author to do so. They run the ads, I know they do, but basically they just give that money to Amazon because they really don't know what they're doing. And it's very rare for a publisher to have the capability to do all aspects of it and the marketing side. And so we do have some advertisement classes on those kind of things. We're doing some new ones here soon, but we're going to wait until all this clears, and so we will try to help you, because I hate seeing authors throw money away that they could be spending on building their own brand, which will further their career and be a best investment for them. Because I like making my dollars matter for me, and I really feel like each author wants to make their dollars matter for them and not just give that away to someone else. So do we have another question? Last question, Pam Halter. It says, if I am doing pretty much everything right marketing-wise, as I've been told, why aren't my book sales better? Well, I don't know what you were told or if it was right, but so let's just say that it was. Is that a marketing thing, or just that there are so many books to choose from that people can be extra choosy? Or is that they simply want books for $1? Okay, so here's the issue with books. There are millions of books. There's 1 million books every year published. It's a very clouded market. If you don't have a following, you're essentially shouting in a windstorm, hoping that people will see your raindrop in all the raindrops that are out there in the storm. And the truth is that they're probably not going to see it, because the only way to really to find that one raindrop is to have to directly point it out to you, and that's what marketing does. It allows you to directly point to a specific raindrop for someone to look at, and then they have to determine at that point if they're going to buy your book. And so, if you're in a product war with books that cost $1, then you're in the wrong marketplace. If you're selling children's books on Amazon, children's books don't sell on Amazon. Children's books are tactile; they have to see them. So that is not a good place to sell children's books. Children's books sell at book fairs, at homeschool conventions, in craft shows, and tourist spots, in bookstores. That's where children's books sell. If you're selling nonfiction, they sell where buyers are trying to meet felt needs. And so that can be bookstores, it can be gift shops. If I'm writing a book about grief, I want to get it in a hospital gift shop. That's where I want to go. Or I want to get it into choice books, which are in truck stops, which are in hospitals, they're in airports, those type of places. So I want to get my product where the person that's going to buy it is most likely going to be there looking for my book, and not on necessarily Amazon. Amazon is the platform for fiction. And so if you're a fiction author, you should be on Amazon. But most books on Amazon make the majority of their money in Kindle Unlimited because they get pages read, not because they are selling individual books. And rarely do you make money selling paperback books anymore anyways. Most stuff is done for fiction electronically. So I don't know if that speaks to, Pam, you can, in the comments, you can discuss that with Bethany. I'll try to look at that later for you and help you. But again, if you're being told the right stuff, I hear a lot of people at conferences, I just cringe, because I talk to publishers on a daily basis, and I go to conferences and I just cringe when I hear people teaching things that are marketing, tried and true tactics, and they're not. They're just something that they heard works and they're teaching, and maybe it worked for them for a short time, but it doesn't always work for everybody. And there are better ways to invest your time, your talents, your treasures in creating that platform to market you and your book. But I believe it starts with you. If you market you first, it'll be much easier to market your book. And so start with you and your brand and build that and invest in that. And I know that's frustrating, because you might have a book out right now and you say, well, I haven't built me. I don't have a brand for me. I don't have all this stuff. Then stop and build that. And understand, when you do that, it will get easier. And I know that means you might have this child that you have to orphan, this book child that you have to orphan right now for a little bit, but you'll come back and rescue that orphan book child and build it into this new brand that you build. And so sometimes you just have to do that. But I see people all the time going down, their books like the Titanic, and they're just riding that ship all the way to the bottom of the ocean because they don't want to let go of it to try something different, when they really need to let go, let the ship sink, and not go down with the ship. And ultimately, they come back later and try to rebirth that ship from the bottom and get it floating again. So I encourage you, maybe that's the one thing you need to hear right now. Maybe some of you, you're right, you're the captain of the Titanic, and your book is just, it's sinking, and you just don't want to give up on it because you love it so much, and it's a passion project. But maybe the thing you need to do is just jump off the ship for a little bit, swim, get rescued, then create a better, stronger ship, sail out to sea, and help raise the other ship back and make it strong again. And that may be what you need to do. You maybe need to really work on your platform, and there's no better time to do it than right now. I'm telling you, there's no better time than right now. They just canceled the Olympics. This is July. I don't think there's going to be a football season at this point. So you have an unprecedented length of time where there's going to be no distractions in the world around us for 6 months, maybe even 9 months, they're saying. Maybe even, what was the governor of New York just said, 3, 6, or 9 months. This thing's going to go on for a long time. We're not going to get back to normal life in 2 months, even if things are back opened up, because the sports are still going to be canceled. And so all this distractions out there, utilize this next period of time, grow your platform. The people that do it in 6 months are going to be the ones that are able to sell books. And the people that don't are not going to have this engaged audience because they didn't invest their time wisely. I am not writing right now. I'm investing in people right now. I'm trying to provide light and hope and humor into the world around us. That's where I'm investing my time and energy. That's why we're doing these webinars. I will write when I get a chance, but I'm investing in people right now because I know that people pay dividends when you invest in them later because they value you when you value them. So we hope this helps you. Thank you for coming to this free webinar. We'll have another one next week, Friday at 11. We have a free class for kids. We're going to be talking about the three-act structure of plots in children's animated movies. So that will be at 11 o'clock. It'll be broadcast live. We'll be discussing that. We'll have slides. We're going to break down movies. I think we're going to have some movie clips. It's going to be awesome. We're so excited about that. That's for our club members. I'm sorry. I'm just getting a note. That's in our club. And so we've got more stuff coming up. I think we'll make that available after maybe next week in the club, in the Serious Writer family group or somewhere else so that you can participate in that. And then we do have a Serious Writer simulcast coming up on the 16th and 17th of April. We are going to have an entirely full conference all online for you to be help and support right now in a difficult time because I know many conferences are canceled. So expect to have keynotes, expect to have sessions, expect to have breakouts and workshops. We're going to have all of it done for you. We're lining up all of our faculty now. We're very excited to offer that for you and just give you something to look forward to as we continue through this season together as a community. And so thank you for tuning in.